Hello, good evening. I'm Sally Taylor. A BBC investigation has found police action against suspected rapists and sex offenders has dropped sharply in Dorset, something that campaigners say is an absolute scandal. The force's charge rate has been below the national average for almost a decade. Let's just take a look at those figures. Now, this here shows reported rapes and serious offences in Dorset in the 3 years up to March 2023. And you can see the increase, more than 2,000 cases. But this over here shows the number of charges or other court action over the same period, and they've fallen. That's a charge rate of just 5%. Having a rape case dropped is highly traumatic for victims. Swannish teenager Gaia Pope, who was found dead in 2017, days after she went missing, reported she'd been raped when she was 16. But Dorset Police dropped her case. The force says its performance on sex crimes is now improving, but Gaia's cousin, Marienna Pope-Wiedemann, believes a dedicated sex offence unit is needed. Our Home Affairs Correspondent Nikki Mitchell reports.
Take it back, oh, let me down.
Happy teenage days with her twin sister. It took a year for Gaia Pope to pluck up the courage to tell her family she'd been raped. When she went to the police to report it and give evidence, her cousin Marienna went with her.
That was the bravest and most heartbreaking thing I have ever seen. She shook and held my hand right the way through, but she was so determined to keep going, to give the police whatever they needed, to investigate properly, because she wanted to protect other young girls from having to go through, what she had gone through. And when, after months and months of waiting, that culminated in being told by the police that they were going to be dropping her case, it was devastating for Gaia. It made her feel disbelieved, and what she'd been through didn't matter, even though it changed her life and changed our family forever.
I met Marienna in the park where her family and friends held a vigil for Gaia a week after her body was discovered. By this time, her alleged rapist had been jailed for sex crimes against another teenage girl. He was due to be released from prison when Gaia vanished, prompting an 11-day-long search which hit headlines nationwide. She'd been in extreme distress. That week, she was sent sexually explicit images by another man on social media. Both she and her family had been trying and failing to report him to the police.
Okay. And can I take your name from you, please?
Yeah, it's Gaia Pope-Sutherland.
Police calls were played at the inquest into Gaia's death. This next one is a later discussion between a police officer and a female call handler.
This is the fifth call I've had. They started talking absolute rubbish. I told them I have no idea who they are, what they're on about, and then they started calling me a drag queen, so I decided at that point to hang up.
It was completely incompetent, and when she was finally able to speak directly to a police officer on the phone that day, he told her that he thought that she was talking rubbish and playing a joke, and hung up on her.
Gaia was in a very vulnerable mental state when she called, and an inquest concluded her death was probably caused by her mental health. She suffered from PTSD, epilepsy and post-seizure psychosis. Included in the coroner's many prevention of future death reports were recommendations police officers receive basic training in dealing with people with mental health issues and those suffering sexual trauma. So how then, in the years since Gaia's death, has Dorset's record on prosecuting rapists declined so drastically? This graph shows when all crime reports are taken into account, Dorset's charge rates are usually better than the national average. But look at the two lower lines. When it comes to offences of rape, the force hangs almost consistently below. It's further evidence for Marienna that her petitioning for a dedicated rape and serious sexual offences or RASO unit is crucial.
These figures should be a source of profound shame, should trigger some real self-examination. This is one of the most serious, life-changing and, in cases like Gaia's, life-threatening crimes, and investing in a RASO unit is one way for Dorset Police to demonstrate that they are finally making this a priority and investing the resources they need to pull their socks up and pick up their act.
Others are also worried. A grassroots movement against gender-based violence called Foxstrut began in Bournemouth last year and is slowly spreading nationwide. It was born out of an observation by its founders that they saw more foxes on the street at night than women.
We deserve to feel safe, and we're not going to tolerate actually below average statistics or decreasing statistics. We want real action. But there is also, in my mind, a feeling of, well, what's the point in reporting? And that needs to be tackled, because if the stats are going down, that's going to have a knock-on effect to people's belief in our police.
In a statement, the force said, "We recognise there is still much to do." But Dorset Police has seen a steady improvement in positive outcomes related to serious sexual offences over the last 2 years, to now 7.9%. That's for the year up to the end of March 24, data which is not yet publicly available. It says it's aware the percentage was previously higher, but this should be set against very much higher levels of reporting 10 years later, 531 then against 1,870 in 23-24. It's hoped that this illustrates the increased confidence of victims to report sexual offences to Dorset Police. Marienna's message to sex crime survivors is not to blame themselves if their case gets dropped.
It's the responsibility of those in power to step up and make change on this issue, and that's not going to happen without us demanding it.
The campaign in Gaia's name continues. Nikki Mitchell, BBC South Today.